All right, so we're here with Plamolab. We tried to do an interview with Lewis back in last year, right? Back at GraniteCon, and things didn't work out. He's got some amazing stuff. So I guess first off, how long have you been building? Because you've obviously must have gone through a journey, and I'm just curious how.
Straight building since 2012. My first model was the high-grade Shining Gundam.
Okay.
Didn't have any of the tools, messed it all up. And then I started painting back in 2015.
Okay.
So from 2015 now, so 7 years, it's been the painting and scratch building, all of that. Cool. Each model I tried to do something I haven't done. Now I'm just gonna stick to like my own thing, which is gonna be clear kits.
Okay.
So that's gonna be like my own line of stuff, just for myself. I know some people don't care for clears. I personally like it, but that, and then right now I'm just painting statues that I buy. Okay. So I repaint those. That's so cool. That I learned hand brushing through that.
That's cool. Very cool. Cool. And I guess my next question would be, how did you, like, you've obviously must have come a long way. You were one of the finalists. You took places in a bunch of categories at GraniteCon, and I would not be surprised if you took a few places today just based on your work and stuff like that. How long did it feel like in that 7 years of painting, say, when did you feel like you started getting to the point where you thought you were pretty good? Or
Never.
Never. Okay,
and I still feel that way. No, I still feel that way because I look at other people's stuff on like Instagram.
Yeah.
I look at it. I'm like, I can do, these people are way above me.
Sure.
So I still feel like I will never feel like I'm at the top.
Yeah.
Because every kit I see better work. I see more smoother paint jobs because I don't like bumps in my paint.
Yeah.
So a model kit back in the day would take me like, let's say a month now, it takes me 4.
Right.
Because I'm more anal with the paint job. Yeah. Because I see everybody else posting and theirs is all nice and smooth and I'm like, how do they do this?
Sure.
What am I doing wrong? Am I fitting it wrong? Is my airbrush messed up? So that I don't know. I try to assume that's how it is.
Sure.
So I try to push myself higher.
Yeah.
So no point. I'm nervous every convention, everything. Yeah. I don't feel like I'm at the top.
Sure.
Nor will I ever be.
Sure. Well, that's a good outlook to have no matter where you're at, because then that's the only way
like
better. If you think you're at the top, you rest.
Yeah, like my Nightingale, those rivets, I could have done them better. I've never painted over metal rivets before. Sure. So I have to learn each one. Now I need to learn the primers for that. So
makes sense.
And then there's flaws of each model, but that's everybody.
Makes a lot of sense. Okay, let me rephrase the question then.
Okay, I guess you didn't like that answer.
No, I really like that answer. That's really good. That in itself is a social media post in itself. We can cut that as a clip. It'll be awesome. So, but like.
When did I feel confident?
When did you first start placing? Like, how long did that take? Did you feel like you jumped right in and got really good? Did it take a long time before before people start recognizing your work?
My first convention was here, maybe 2016, 17, I don't remember. And I was like, it was me and just Thomas. That was it.
Yeah.
So then the only time I actually saw more people was back in 2019.
Okay.
And that was it. Okay. So.
Were you placing in 2019?
Yes.
So, okay.
So
it's hard to say.
Yes and no, because yes, I was told today, I overheard, because I had to leave early that day.
Yeah.
And they didn't hand out the medals, but I overheard them saying, did he even deliver them? And he said no. So I heard that part for eavesdropping. Okay. But I don't do like social media competitions because, like I told you, photographs isn't my forte.
Right.
So.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess that's it.
Okay. Let's see.
I don't know how to answer that one. So.
Yeah. No, it's a hard one just because of the circumstances.
Well, not just that too. There's some I don't enter because I don't like to package them. Okay. Because it's a hassle to package them, and then today parts were breaking yesterday. I get worried of, is it worth messing up my model to showcase it? Sure. And then when I move, I'm even more terrified. So how's that gonna go?
Absolutely. And, we flew down for Old Dominion Open back in February, and I brought models with me, and flying with models is just as bad. So it's like, okay, I'm gonna put this in a case. I can't even touch it.
Yeah, and you can't hold it the whole time.
You can't hold it.
You're scared.
Yeah. In the plane,
yeah, I don't want to do any of that.
Yeah. Cool. So you said the most recent build you've done is that Nightingale, right? It's an artifact.
Yes.
You said I don't know if you want to go through just all the things that you did and maybe some of the challenges. It's a level above. I've got one artifact I've built. I started trying to hand paint it, and I'm really unhappy with where I'm at. So I got to.
For the Nightingales, I remember I saw the artifacts, and I'm like, these look pretty cool. So I bought Series 1 and 2. I bought 2 of each.
Okay.
So for the Nightingale, if you've seen artifacts, their seam lines are terrible.
Yes, they are.
So for the legs,
So what do you use to clean up those seam lines? That'd be my first question.
So
'cause that's a problem I had.
first I had to separate the parts in a way that you could put it in so you could paint separately. So like the legs, when you build the Nightingale, it's actually two. You have the leg and then you clamshell it.
Okay.
So to avoid that, get rid of the upper leg, and for the lower leg, you cut the tabs.
Okay.
So you can just force it in there. And then for putty, I used regular cement.
Okay.
And then I made my own cement with like the plastic in there to thicken it.
Right.
And then buff everything, primed it. Any gaps, I went back with Milliput. I have Milliput Smooth and then like the Mariput Terracotta so I could see the coloring.
Okay.
And then it was just a process of that again and again. When the Milliput wouldn't hold, I would just put cement, plastic sheets on top, like the plot plates.
Yeah.
Let that dry, then carefully sand it down into place. And then you prime everything, and if you have any issues, you just keep repeating the process. So that I had to do for the whole chest, because the whole cavity is one piece,
Right.
fruster, everything. The propane paints in the back were difficult. I had to use 2 kits for one, because they're actually misshapen. So you have to smooth it out, and then you get rid of some details. So I had to add back like rectangular parts. Rescribe the lines that were messed up. The arms were actually the hardest part, because when the seam line running from here throughout, you have the curvature of like the cuff link and then the forearm and the elbow. So for that was a process of just putty and then reshape with a chisel. So 0.4 and a 0.6. And then the parts where the angles weren't fine, re-putty them and then slowly, I took pictures of that part and then slowly cut them off to make, because I don't like asymmetry, I like matching stuff. And then for like the front, the vent here was all warped on the other side, so plot plate, reshaping. So just a bunch of that.
Yeah.
And then they have like molded on circular parts, which I'm assuming are rivets. So for that, I sanded them all off and I drilled holes in each one. And then I bought 0.7 to 5 millimeter rivets.
Okay.
Some of them I painted because I wanted color. Others I didn't, and those were placed after painting everything. With a precision glue tip because I don't want to mess up the paint job. And over time, paint job did get messed up, so I had to like literally at the end rebuff it, repaint those specific areas just because I want smooth. So a lot of modifying just to peg it in.
Yeah. So that question hits home for me because I feel like I'll prime something, I'll think the seam line's gone, you put the actual color on, and you're like, I can still see it.
Or there's like a gap, and you're like, where the hell did this come from?
Yeah,
you can see it.
So when you like buff it out and then you go to paint over it again, do you do you wash your parts, for example?
No.
No. Not never? Like
no, because to me there's no point, because if you're constantly sanding it, and then at the end I just wipe it with a Q-tip.
Sanded stuff gets off there?
A wet Q-tip.
Wet Q-tip? Okay.
Rub it around and then use a dry one and then use like an air can.
Okay. You try that, then it's good to go pretty much immediately.
And then it depends too. So I've learned, for like a smoother one, if you want the paint very fine, it depends on the grain. I've noticed like the sandpaper, and it depends on the primer too, because there's different grits. If you use more of a smoother primer, sometimes like my paint doesn't stick. If you use more of a quartz, it does. So then you can use your base, like I would do like a gloss black. I see the bumps, then I buff that out, and then that's fine. Then I do chrome, there's bumps, do that. Then I did orange in certain spots, like in clear, and then red everything else. And I do them all in one batch so the color is uniform. So that's a key to it. Like if I'm doing whites, I just do all whites in the day. If I'm doing reds in the day, because one day your ratio is good, the next day it could be different.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything.
So all the red was airbrushed, all the white on the propanes was airbrushed, and the grays. Hand painted darker gray with the Vallejos throughout the body. That's easier to do than airbrushing because it's more tight. So that was with like a with a 4x4 round tip brush. So that one, I use synthetic because I'm not going to spend a lot on like a horsehair brush for one thing and then toss it out. So
interesting.
And then less time was actually done on the base than was on the Gundam itself.
Because you scratch built the base on that. That's
so it's a wood block, and then I sculpted over it with clay. Then I used different like texture compounds that Vallejo sells. And then for plot plate, I just shaped. I tried to make it like the colony, the space colony thing. So I tried to get that arc in there. So slowly I just added onto it. And then for the plot plate, I purposely grained out some of the plastic, so when you paint over it, you have the areas where you want the weathering, and then you just paint over there, and then you can accentuate.
Cool.
So sometimes you, like for me, if I want to damage, I purposely leave the part messed up.
Right. That's cool.
For the Gundam, I just wanted the illusion like he's just flying through.
Yeah.
For the Nightingale, like he's flying through the debris.
Yeah.
Then I want to do the Hainu, like he's chasing after. But that one, I'm going to have to cut him up to pose him. But it's either do I do more artifacts or do I do more clear kills?
So is it how much time and what to do when something takes you that long? I feel like it takes me that long. I don't get anywhere the result, and I'm probably not putting the hours you are on the projects, but I get like a day a week I can paint maybe, and that
And it's always hard when you had to go back to it and stop it, back to it, stop it, because then when you go back to it at some point, you don't actually feel like doing anything.
Yeah.
So that's the issue I have, stop and go, stop and go, stop and go, and then you just sit there like, I just don't feel like it.
Yeah.
So then it gets pushed back.
Right. Yeah. What was I doing? What was my mindset when I was doing it before was my problem.
Pretty
so
much.
Trying to pick it back up, it sucks.
And then it's harder like when you come up with a color concept and then months come by and you're like, what was that again? So now I write down every color I use, every paint I use, where I use it. So then when I do forget, I'm like, okay, I used this. If I need to do a touch up like I did today, I used this.
Yeah.
So keep a little notebook I have just for that.
Sounds like really helpful. Cool.
Was that sufficient?
Yeah, that was good.